Hey friend, welcome back to my kitchen. My name is Becky if you're new, and today I have been working all day on my computer, and now it is afternoon time, and I thankfully have already got dinner started in the crock pot maybe about 2 hours, 3 hours ago. I went ahead and I put in the Tuscan chicken that we made in the last freezer cooking day, and that's been cooking on high for about 2 or 3 hours or so. I didn't look at the clock right when I put it in, but it is boiling like crazy. So I went ahead and I turned it on low because I don't want my chicken to get overcooked. So what we're gonna do now is we are gonna get going on a side for dinner. I wanna make cheesy pumpkin bread. I want to make cheesy monkey bread. I've never made this before, and I thought that it would go well with Tuscan chicken. So that's what we're gonna get going on next. I think I want to use my Bosch mixer, so I'm going to grab that. I do keep it in the pantry because it's kind of big, but I love making bread with this thing. I don't have every single ingredient that this recipe calls for, but I have a good substitute, I think. So we're going to use my previous cooking knowledge and this recipe to make this monkey bread. And we'll see how well it turns out. I'm sure it'll be good. This is a pretty standard bread recipe. It calls for nothing super extravagant, except it does call to roast a whole head of garlic. I don't have that, but I have a lot of garlic in the house, so we can make it work based on the garlic that I have. Oh, here it is. I have some garlic butter from last year's garlic harvest. I just turned it into garlic butter, and we're gonna use that. The first thing I need to do is warm up 1 1/4 cup of milk and melt 2 tablespoons of butter. Now I have warmed milk and melted butter. We're gonna add our yeast to our milk. And the recipe calls for instant yeast, which I don't have. I have active dry. So normally, if you use instant, you don't have to do this step, but because I'm using active dry, I need my yeast to sit in the milk for about 4 or 5 minutes before we can get started on actually making the dough. So while that's sitting, I can go ahead and just measure out the rest of my ingredients into my mixer. And then while this dough is doing, oh shoot, I don't have any flour in here. While this dough is gonna do its first rise, we're actually gonna go out and start this year's pumpkins, squash, loofahs, and some other fun things that I know I need to get started today. So I just grabbed my big bucket of flour, and I'm almost out of this up here. So I'm going to need to replenish my flour here pretty soon. I feel like I'm in my bread baking era. I bake bread all the time. I just washed a bunch of eggs. I got 14 eggs over the weekend, and I thought that I almost should make brioche, but I think I'm gonna do that over the weekend. I've never made brioche bread before, and I wanna make brioche French toast. So that's one of my goals coming up, that I wanna learn how to make brioche bread. But that's a project for a different day. Today we're making monkey bread. I will link this recipe down below if you want to try making monkey bread yourself. I'm gonna mix that together along with our yeast mixture. I have finally discovered that my KitchenAid is for making things like cookies and cakes. This thing is a workhorse when it comes to bread. It can knead bread like there's no business. I could have doubled or tripled this recipe Tripled might have been a little pushing it, but you could easily double, almost triple a recipe, and it can knead it no problem. So I think I'm gonna let this go for a minute longer while I go ahead and, well, I'm not gonna spray this yet. This is what we're gonna cook our monkey bread in, and I'm gonna go ahead and start warming up the garlic and kind of getting that roasty and toasty. So the dough is looking really nice. It's super stretchy. So what I think I'm gonna do is normally I transfer my dough into a different bowl to let it rise, but I have a friend who lets her dough rise right in her Bosch mixer, so I think I'm gonna go ahead and do that. We're gonna have to shape this anyway into small balls, so when I punch it down, it doesn't need to stay in a perfect circle or anything like that. So I'm just gonna kind of stretch it out a little bit so that it has a little bit more room, put the lid back on, and let it rise for an hour and a half to 2 hours, just like this. My friend Meg from the Holler Homestead, that's how she lets her dough rise in her Bosch mixer, and so that is what I am gonna do. I can link that mixer down below. Sometimes it's available, sometimes it's not. It's kind of hit or miss whether it's available online, but I will link it, so if you wanna see it and check it out, it is available. I didn't even know that type of mixer existed until I was an adult. Everyone I knew growing up either used a hand mixer or a KitchenAid. No one used that. It wasn't until I started watching YouTube that I saw that mixer, and it is a workhorse for bread. It makes bread so easily. So here's this butter. Now what I'm gonna do with this butter and this garlic is I'm gonna slowly cook this on a low temperature until we basically kind of roast those garlic cloves. What the recipe says to do is take a whole clove of garlic, throw that in the oven, let it roast for like 30 to 45 minutes until you have really soft roasted garlic. I don't have a whole head garlic. I'm not about to run into town to get garlic to make this recipe. So I don't wanna brown this garlic. I just wanna slowly cook it so that we can maybe get that like roasted garlic flavor without a whole head of garlic. We'll see. It might work, it might not. I'm gonna put this away and then we'll come back and watch this very closely. The recipe also calls for a 1/4 cup of olive oil. Once you roast your garlic, you take the garlic out of the cloves, you put that in a bowl with a 1/4 cup of olive oil. And so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and omit the 1/4 cup of olive oil. It'll make more sense when we get to that step, but I'm just gonna use butter because I have already this butter garlic mixture instead of the garlic cloves and the oil. This is what the Tuscan chicken is looking like. This has 3 chicken breasts in it. It has sun-dried tomatoes, artichoke hearts, cream cheese, chicken broth, garlic, salt, pepper, and this smells so good. This was probably my #1 requested, what do we think about it? I don't know what we think about it because I haven't made it yet. And we're gonna add a few more ingredients to this before we finish it off. And I can tell you one thing is that it smells incredible. And I cannot wait to dig in that tonight. So I put it on low because I don't want the chicken to get any more tender. I actually wanna cut the chicken into cubes before we serve this. I don't think I wanna serve it shredded. I'm not sure. I just don't want it to get too tender. So I put it on low after about 2 hours in the crock pot, maybe 3, who's counting? I don't think this butter is quite garlicky enough for what we need. So I'm gonna go ahead and add just a little bit, that's ginger, just a little bit more garlic, maybe 2 garlic pucks to that so we can get the garlic flavor I want out of this bread. I don't want this to brown the garlic. I just want it to kind of cook the raw garlic flavor out of that. So I'm actually gonna turn the stove off while I go ahead and prep some cheese for this next recipe, or same recipe, but this is gonna be once this dough rises, we're gonna build our monkey bread in our bundt pan. And I want my cheese already shredded and ready to go for that. So the recipe calls for mozzarella and Swiss cheese. I don't have mozzarella. I happen to have already pre-shredded Swiss cheese in my fridge from last time we did freezer cooking. So I don't need to shred any of that, but I'm gonna substitute this mild cheddar for the mozzarella because it's what I have. And I've got a sharp cheddar too, a white sharp cheddar, but I don't think that's gonna melt as well. And so this is gonna have a little bit more of a similar melting consistency to a mozzarella. Not quite the same, but definitely it'll melt better than a very sharp cheddar. Maybe a little bit more. Might as well shred this whole block, and so whatever we don't use, I can use on a different day. Okay, there's our cheese. Dinner is well on its way. Our main course is almost done. We just have a few more things to add to that. Our bread is well on its way, so let's go outside in the grow room and get some squash started for this year's garden. Last time we were out here together, I pulled out my pumpkin seeds and I said over the weekend I was gonna decide what I was gonna plant. Let me turn these off. Well, I did not do that. We had a very relaxing weekend as a family, and I only came out here to tend to the plants, and I didn't think much about, oh, I've got the exhaust fan I need to turn off. I didn't think much about the pumpkins we're gonna be starting. So you and I are gonna figure that out together, which is gonna be kind of fun. But I did want to update you on these tomato plants. I was so worried about them when we up-potted them. If you were with me, I thought my plants were diseased, and up-potting them was the only thing I could think of to do to help them bounce back. And they are looking so fantastic. They have greened up. I have not been watering them very heavily, and I'm just kind of letting them do their thing, trying to support them, but not baby them like I was doing, which was overwatering and damaging them. So I think they're gonna be okay, which is good news. Our peppers are looking okay, and I wouldn't say that they have bounced back quite as much just looking at them as the tomatoes have, but I have high hopes for them. I think that they're gonna be good to go into the garden. I got a gift. One of my friends gifted me a hose thing to put here, which I'm really excited to get this hose off the ground. I just need Josh to install it for me. So maybe when he gets home later today, if he has time, he can help me install a hose organizer. But for now, we are gonna sit down and go through our pumpkins, our zucchini, our gourds, our melons, our loofahs. The loofahs, I forgot, I was supposed to have these soak for 24 hours before I planted them. And clearly if I plant them now, even if I soak them, I won't be able to plant them until later. So what I think I will do is I will get everything ready for them, soak them, and then plant them tomorrow. But we're gonna get everything else planted, but first we need to figure out what we're gonna plant. Squash or pumpkins are one of my favorite things to grow. One, I love to eat zucchini. I have not bought, though, any zucchini from the store since last time I harvested one, because we harvested so much zucchini last year and ate so much that I have been good and I have not wanted any zucchini, but I'm excited for when it's gonna be in the garden again. So I'm gonna grow Black Beauty is gonna be the variety I'm gonna grow. I'm gonna grow this variety, Dunja. This is a hybrid from Johnny's Seed. And then I've got one more variety I wanna grow. I'm gonna grow this zucchini long white. This was the most prolific zucchini I grew last year, and the flesh was very dense. It held up extremely well to cooking, so I'm gonna go ahead and grow that as well. It was crazy prolific. So now I'm gonna go ahead and close my zucchini container, because even if I plant 2 of those, I'll have 6 plants if they all sprout. I do not need 6 plants. I think I had 10 or 12 plants last year, and it was a lot of zucchini. Maybe I'll plant 6 plants, I don't know. We'll see together how many end up in the garden, but I know I wanna grow these 3 varieties. So the next thing I have here, let me set this aside. I'm gonna definitely grow loofahs, so I'm just gonna start little piles over here of what I'm gonna be growing with what they are. This is my whole entire winter squash collection. It is out of control big, because this is one of my favorite things to grow. And I've collected these seeds over the last many, many years, and I've got some new varieties in here that I know I want to grow this year. These being 2 of them. So I'm going to go ahead and put those there. I'm going to grow these little white pumpkins. Put that there. These are pumpkins that are for pepitas. Popular naked seed pumpkins produce seeds without the hard shell. So I'm gonna grow these because these are, when you think of pumpkin seeds you buy at the store, these are those pumpkins. So I definitely wanna grow those. I have never attempted to grow those, so that's gonna be totally new to me this year. I wanna grow a lot of pumpkins for decorating, not just eating. And so I need to go through, oh, so these are gonna be for decoration too. Jack B. Littles, I love growing those. I'm gonna grow birdhouse gourds, white flat stacking pumpkins, Jardel, Chinese miniature. Oh, I forgot all these. I was so excited. This green one, look at that. This is another gourd. This is a bowl gourd. These splotchy, pale green, olive-shaped gourds require a long, hot growing season to mature. Delicious when young, they are excellent for making beautiful bowls and jewelry boxes when dried. Trellis for smooth, unblemished fruit. How many days to maturity? I do not see. This was one of my favorite pumpkins I grew last year. I only got one to harvest, but it tasted delicious. The Johnny seeds, I'm going through and looking on their website what the pumpkins look like because I can't quite remember what the name of the pumpkin and necessarily what it's supposed to look like. And they do not have pictures on their seed packs. So I need to Google it so that I know what I'm looking for. I think I have it figured out. So now that I've got my pumpkins figured out, I have to have 2 of my containers for my pumpkin seeds because pumpkin seeds are so large that, and my collection has gotten so large that I can't fit all of them in one anymore. There we go. Close that. Okay, so the next thing I need to start are cucumbers. And we don't eat a ton of cucumbers. I like them for fresh eating, but I've never been a cucumber. I'll pickle a few quick pickles, put those in the fridge, we'll eat those, but I don't want a ton of cucumbers. So I only need like 1 or 2, 3 plants at most. This seed pack feels like it got wet. So I don't know if those seeds are good anymore. Okay, I'm going to tell you how many seed packs I have out here. So maybe I need to cut back a little bit. I don't know. I'm going to have 2 full beds dedicated to large pumpkins. I've got 2 trellises that I'm going to be putting pumpkins on. And I've got melons here, cucumbers, loofahs, zucchinis. Some of the small pumpkins, like my Jack B. Littles and stuff, they're really little. And I just kind of had those interplanted in the garden last year, and that worked really fine because the plants are pretty little. So I probably will be doing my 2 pumpkin beds, and then I might throw some random pumpkin plants throughout the garden. Because I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 pumpkin plants I want to grow, 2 gourds, 3 zucchinis, 1 loofah, 3 cucumbers, and 2 melons. I don't think I even have enough containers. I found a few more in my drawer the other day, so I've got this many containers. I think I want at least 2 of each variety. we'll figure it out. The first thing I'm gonna do is fill this with soil. I have a question for you all that wear gloves. I lose my right-handed gloves like crazy. I can never find, I've got about 10 pairs of gloves in here. These are all left-handed gloves. How does that even happen? Is it one of the wonderful, not wonderful, but one of the, oh, there's more down here. I have 2 more gloves down here. Here is one right-handed one. So out of all of those gloves that I have in this drawer, they are all left-handed except for these 2. So now I've got a pair of gloves. So now that I have 2 working gloves, I'm going to get some soil out, and I just found a few more pots, which is good. I've got 2, 4, 6, 7, 8. These have some soil in it. I want to use these 4-inch pots when starting my pumpkins because pumpkins get big quick, so do zucchinis, and I don't want them in little pots because basically by the time they germinate, they would need to be up potted, and I don't want to up pot my pumpkins. I want them going from the pot I start them in into the ground. Pumpkins don't love being transplanted, or zucchinis don't love it, but I have never been able to get them to germinate when I direct sow them, so that's why I start them inside. But I like to start them in a big pot so that they germinate, and then quickly, after they have about 1 or 2 true leaves, I'm gonna put them directly into the ground, and I wanna give them lots of room so that when I transplant them, I'm not disturbing their roots too much. I do a little bit, obviously, but I don't want them to get root bound or anything like that. I want them to have plenty of soil to do their thing when they're growing. So this is not enough soil. I think what I'm going to do right now, so I don't forget, because I know that I want to grow these, are loofahs. And I need these to soak for 24 hours before I plant them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and get that happening right now. This little jar just had some cinnamon in it. Not jar, but bowl. So I'm just going to rinse it out, put a little water in it, and I'm going to put some loofah seeds in there. I've only attempted to grow loofah one time, so this is the sponge. You can grow it, it's a vine. And I didn't get any of them to germinate, and I didn't do this step, so I'm hoping that this is the key to get them to germinate. They have a very hard outside shell. The seed is actually inside that shell. And so you need that shell to soften so that it can break through and germinate. One seed sunk, so maybe, I don't know, maybe that means it's a good seed or a bad seed, I'm not sure. I'm gonna put a lot of them in there. And then tomorrow I will plant these. What I'll do is I will make sure that I have one of these pots labeled and ready to go for those loofahs so that as soon as I come out here in the morning tomorrow, I can just up pot them and I will have something ready for them. So I don't even know how many containers I have there. I'm just gonna start filling them up, and I only have 1 tray left. So I'm going to just fill these pots, put them on my counter, and I will just individually carry them over to under the grow lights once they germinate. All right, so this was my last one that I have. I double stacked them and I have 10, 20, 30, 49. No, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 35. Math. I've got 35 of these 4-inch pots. I do have more pots. I just have 5-inch pots and they're really, really big. And so I want to use these first before I need to pull out my 5-inch pots. The part that's going to take me a while is labeling all these. Planting pumpkin seeds and squash seeds is very easy because they're so big, but labeling is what is going to take me the longest, and I'm committed. So far, so good. I've been doing a pretty good job this year labeling my pots. And I'm going to be growing the majority of these pumpkins in raised beds with landscape fabric. And so what I did last year, and it worked fantastic, is I used some of this white duct tape, and I was able to have it on the pot while it was growing. And then when I transplanted it into the ground. I pulled this piece of duct tape off. I just folded it over so I have a little bit of like a lip there. And I put the tape from the pot on the landscape fabric, and that worked beautifully. So I'm gonna do the same thing this year. Now the first 2 pots are gonna be dedicated to loofah. So I'm gonna go ahead and get those on here now. I don't want too much dirt on my actual pot when I put this on here. I ran out of those little stick ones, the ones that when I was doing the peppers and tomatoes. So I'm just back to using this is a white pen, that's not gonna work. I'm just back to using my white duct tape that I found in this grow room when we moved in, left from the previous owner. So this is loofah, and I've got 2 of those, and I'm just going to take my loofah seeds. Maybe I won't stack those, but I'm just going to set that on there so that tomorrow when I come out here I can go ahead and put those seeds in the ground. Another trick you can do with loofah seeds is you can actually take a pair of fingernail clippers and kind of cut the end off the loofah, the pointy end. This down here is the round end, that is the pointy end. You can actually nip that pointy end off and then plant it that way. So there's 2 ways you can kind of help the germination process along. I have another winter squash bucket here. So as I plant, I'm just gonna stick my winter squash seed packs back in here so they're nice and protected. And now that I have those 2, I have 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 37. I'm gonna count all the seeds I have here. I'm not gonna plant my cucumbers in these big pots because that's a little overkill, I think, for cucumbers. I can get away with planting those in some littler pots. So I need to count how many seed packs I have here, and I might pare back just a little bit. This is what I figured out. We've got loofah. I'm gonna do 2 Jardel. So if they're laying kind of across 2 pots, that means I'm gonna do 2 pots worth. So we've got Jardel, fairy tale pumpkin. These grew really well, and I think I can grow these on a trellis too. So I might have to have Josh build me a couple more trellises. Jack B. Little, a Chinese miniature white. So the last year, I grew this baby boo, and these were tiny. They were like this big, maybe this big. So I want them to hopefully be a little bit bigger than that. So I decided that I think, well, maybe, I don't know. I'm gonna try this one and then this variety of miniature white pumpkins. And so we'll see if we can get a little bit bigger of a size and a little bit of a different white pumpkin. I love to decorate my tables with these and decorate for the fall with these. This is a Cinderella pumpkin. This is just the French name for it. I think that's the French name for it. Yes, the French name for it. These are super prolific. I've always had very good luck with them, so I'm gonna grow those. This is a brand new variety to me. It's just crazy cool, and it does say on the back that it is yummy to eat. Yes, this is an heirloom variety that has a yellow-orange flesh, and it's sweet and excels in pies and baked goods. So this is a new variety to me. And then these two, I think, are basically kind of the same pumpkin. This is an heirloom, this is a hybrid, but it's a white stacking pumpkin, so it's gonna be a really flat pumpkin. Then we have our candy roaster. I'm gonna do one of those, so I'm gonna do 4 of these white stacking pumpkins. 1 honey nut, these are really good and delicious, but I don't need a lot of them. 1 butterneck, so I've never grown that one before. We're gonna do 2 pots. I'm putting at least 2 or 3 seeds per pot, so I might not just get 2 plants if I plant 2. I'm hoping to get 2 plants per pot, so I'm gonna get 4, 4, 4, 4, 4, if that makes sense. This is the pumpkin without the seeds without the hole, so those are gonna be for eating the seeds. This is a new one to me. It's a very big butternut squash. I like butternut squash to use the flesh for making pies and breads and things like that. It's less watery than, say, a traditional pumpkin. These are gonna be for decorating. I've never grown either of these. I just think they're fun, so we're gonna grow those. We've got our 3 varieties of zucchini, and these I didn't tell you anything about. We've got this royal golden watermelon. It's a pink watermelon with orange skin, so I thought that would be fun. And then we're gonna attempt to grow these cantaloupes. So how I think I'm gonna do this is label my pot first before I put the seed in. And I think actually for these little miniature pumpkins, I want a lot of these plants because I want to harvest a lot of them to decorate this fall with. So I am hoping, grabbing my pen, for at least 3 plants. So I think what I'll do when I open these seed packs is I'll put 1 seed in each corner. And then for the larger pumpkins, I will probably put just 2 seeds per corner. I should look at the time because, or I should just go look at the bread because we might be ready to shape the bread. It does need to do 1 more rise. So I'm gonna put on here not only the variety of this, but this variety doesn't say that it's a miniature pumpkin. So I'm gonna go ahead and put white miniature pumpkin as well so that when I go to plant these out, I know that I'm not necessarily gonna plant these in with my main pumpkin crop. These are gonna be scattered throughout the garden. Just gonna take the back of my pin. Put a couple holes. There we have it. All right, I've got seeds on top of every single one. They're all labeled, which is huge. And now what I can do is put all these seeds away. I'm gonna try to make sure I have them in the correct order. Wow, does it smell incredible in here. I think what I'm gonna do is take this apron off because I've been working in the grow room with it. I probably should have checked the dough before I did that. Because if the dough's not ready, then I could just go back out there, but I'm gonna wash hands real good and then we're gonna check on that dough. I'm using my new homemade soap, and after using it for about a week and a half now, I have to say the honey oat soap is my favorite over just the plain lard lavender soap. The one with multiple different kinds of oil in it. It's a harder bar. I just like the texture of it better. So that's good. to note for future soap making endeavors. I do have marker all over my hand from writing those labels, but that's okay. Oh yeah, look how beautiful that looks. So now we need to punch it down. Beautiful, it smells fantastic too. Just grabbing out the rest of the things we need to make our dough into cheesy monkey bread. I'm gonna set my mixer aside. That worked out just fine, having my dough rise in the mixing bowl. That was no problem. For some reason, because that thing is in the middle, it just felt weird to do that, but it worked just fine. So I'm gonna get my mat out here. I need to oil my bundt pan. I wanna oil this pretty good because there's gonna be a lot of cheese in it, and I know that it could want to stick. So we need to actually make the cheese mixture. I'm gonna turn my garlic back on. This is where, if you roasted the garlic, you would take your roasted garlic and you would put it in this bowl with a 1/4 cup of oil. But I don't have that, so we're just gonna use our garlic butter. This is probably gonna be perfect timing for dinner when all this starts to come together. If you had spray, you could do spray. I don't have any spray right now, so I'm just doing the old-fashioned way. So we're just gonna pretend that this is roasted garlic. Now we're gonna add 2 cups of Swiss cheese. I'm gonna call that 2 handfuls, and then 2 cups of our cheddar cheese. Or if you had mozzarella, you would use mozzarella. Now this doesn't have to be exact because we're gonna bake it in our bundt pan, but we want about 1-inch balls. Now I'm gonna roll these into nice shaped dough balls. We're supposed to roll this in our cheese mixture. And then we're supposed to put this in our bundt pan. I was a little worried that the cheese wasn't gonna wanna stick to the dough, but it sticks really, really well, so that's good. This seems like a lot of cheese for the amount of dough, but we'll see when we get to the end. So that looks like it was the perfect amount of cheese. I might as well just put the rest of this cheese in there because I don't know what I would do with a bunch of garlicky cheese. So we're just going to cover this and let this rise for about another 40 minutes or so. I think at this point, I'm gonna go ahead and preheat the oven so that as soon as that has risen to about the top, it says, of the bundt pan. Now it says a 10-inch bundt pan. I don't know how big my bundt pan is, if mine's big or small. The bread didn't fully fill out the bundt pan, so I'm thinking that maybe mine's a little bigger, I'm not sure. But I do want it to rise for at least 30 minutes or so. So we'll get the oven preheated so that as soon as that's risen, we can go ahead and get it in the oven. And then I'm gonna put my apron back on and I'm gonna head out and we're gonna finish up what we started out there. I think what I'm gonna do real quick actually before I even preheat the oven is I'm gonna go ahead and get these dishes in my dishwasher so that I don't come back in from out there, oops, drop that, and see a bunch of dishes that need to be dealt with. We have one more ingredient, actually 2 more things we're gonna add to this, but I'm not ready to do that quite yet. I'll do that when we put the bread in the oven. Okay, I don't want that to be too shredded. I want some nice chunks. Now that I'm back out here, I'm just gonna push the seeds into the soil because all the seeds were just resting on the top, and now I've pushed them just in the soil about 1/2 inch, and I want them covered by 1 inch of soil. I didn't pack these pots super tightly, so they definitely can use a little bit more soil on the top. So that's how I'm gonna finish covering them, is each one of these pots is just gonna get a little bit more soil, and that's how we're gonna cover these seeds. My loofahs are not planted out yet, so I'm just gonna put those there. And we're gonna get these watered in, but we might as well get our cucumbers planted next. These are my last 3 containers, and cucumbers are the last thing. I need to start nasturtiums too. Forgot about that, but I don't need to start nasturtiums in big pots like this. I can start my nasturtiums in something a little smaller than this. I have 3 seed packs. I have 3 containers. I'm gonna put 2 seeds. These are old seed. I did not buy any cucumber seeds this year. So I think I'm gonna put 3 in each. I need to see if I even have nasturtium seeds. I don't know if I bought any new seeds this year, and I planted so many last year. I have a feeling I don't have any. They're super easy to grow and super easy to start. They were definitely one of the flowers that I had the best success with early on and gave me confidence to keep going. It wouldn't be in here. Oh good, I do have a whole pack. It is a good 45 minutes since last time I was with you. I got interrupted, no big deal. So now I'm gonna go ahead and grab these trays. And I don't think I have time now to finish planting the nasturtiums. I am just gonna plant all the nasturtium seeds I have and call that good. But I do need a couple more of these. I'm just gonna grab them so that maybe tonight, when I have some more time to myself, I can come back out into the grow room and get the nasturtium seeds planted. So let me share with you what I have when it comes to nasturtium seeds so you can see the varieties that I'm gonna plant. It's bright out here, it feels fantastic. I almost got rid of these because I have these now and I love them, but I don't have enough. These are the only ones I have left, and I'm gonna start a lot more nasturtium seeds than that. And so I'm so glad I kept these because I've used these for a lot of things. But this is what I have. I'm just gonna plant out every single nasturtium seed I have. I have whirlybird rose, tip top rose, cherry jewel, black velvet, which I think is my favorite, Alaska red shade. So the only ones I don't love are these ones. These are the jewel mix, and I just am not a huge fan of yellow flowers. I like reds and pinks better, which Empress of India is also kind of like a red color. So that is what I'm gonna plant out, 1 seed per cell, and I will probably do that tonight. So I'm gonna go ahead and water. That is all the water that I want on there because I don't have a tray underneath them, so I don't want them leaking water out. I just plugged my heat mat back in. I'm gonna plug my thermometer in there. And I don't think these are gonna take very long to germinate. I think in the next 4 or 5 days, these will germinate. This bread is looking perfect, absolutely ready to go into the oven. I'm just always nervous with something like this, that it's gonna get cooked all the way through before the outsides get too crispy. So I'm gonna get that in there, and I think, I just touched the thing, but I think my hand's okay. I think I need to grab a pot holder, and I'm gonna move this up a little bit. All right, we're gonna let that cook for about 30 minutes. While that's cooking, we can finish up our main course. We've got some pasta here. I need to boil some water, and we're gonna make pasta to go with that. The recipe, I will link that recipe if I didn't already say that. The recipe for the crock pot Tuscan chicken says you can serve it over mashed potatoes or noodles. I think it'll go well over noodles. I am completely out of the potatoes I grew last year. I have a pantry full of pasta, so that's what we're gonna use. I cleaned this earlier. I like to store this in the oven. We don't need that for dinner, so I'm gonna go ahead and put that away. Put this away. Need the lid for that. I like to boil water with a lid. I find that it boils much faster. Now that our water's on to boil, our bread is in the oven, we're gonna finish up our Tuscan chicken. I've got some frozen spinach here. These were just fresh spinach leaves that I threw in a Ziploc bag. Stir that in. I should taste this chicken. It's fully cooked, and I should taste it if it needs anything, because this is the first time I'm making this recipe. There wasn't any Parmesan cheese or anything in it, so I could just see if it needs something like that, or salt or pepper. You know, I don't cook with artichokes very often. That is so good, because you can really taste the artichokes. I wasn't sure if I was gonna like the artichokes. I'm not sure if Josh was gonna like the artichokes. The artichokes add a fantastic flavor. I should cook with artichokes more. That is so good. So there's cream cheese in that, artichokes, and the sun-dried tomatoes, so it's got a really good, rich flavor. So I don't think it needs any Parmesan cheese, if you can believe that I'm saying that, because I almost put Parmesan cheese in everything. Maybe we'll top our own bowl with some Parmesan cheese. The moment of truth. Can we get this out of the bundt pan? I think it's done. It's pretty golden brown. I had the thought that maybe I should cover the top while it baked. Oh wow, it is sizzling. Look at that. Okay, now can we get it out of this bundt pan? That's the question. I'm gonna go ahead and turn the oven off. I've got my thermometer here. If you wanna know if bread is done, you want it to be at least 210 degrees. You want it to at least be 200 degrees. So we're done there, okay. So I've got a plate here. Oh, I think it, oh, I don't want to break my plate. Okay, that's not coming out. Uh-oh. Normally what I do is I take a fork. The key is a plastic fork. Oh yeah. How is that coming out of there? That is stuck on there like there's no tomorrow. Oh no, friend, I don't think this is coming out of here. There's no way. Does the recipe say it should cool first before I do this? That's good. Not everything can be a winner. This tastes fantastic. I'm not gonna blame the recipe because I deviated from the recipe. I used butter, not oil. And so we're not gonna blame the recipe. I would like to try it again. It tastes oh so good. The crunchy top with the soft, pillowy, garlicky, cheesy inside. It might not look like $1 million, but it sure tastes like $1 million. Now this, on the other hand, needs to be soaked immediately because that is going to be quite the fun thing to clean up. So our main dish is done. I am just waiting for Josh and then we can sit down and eat dinner. I will put the nasturtium seeds in some soil tonight, hopefully. It may or may not happen, but that is my goal. And I just had a lot of fun in the kitchen and in the garden with you, just because it doesn't turn out Pinterest perfect doesn't mean it's not absolutely delicious. So we will enjoy this. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. If you want to watch a few more of my other videos before my next upload, I'll pop those here. You can go enjoy. I want to just say thank you for being here. I really appreciate every single one of you. I hope you're having a fantastic day, and I can't wait to see you next time. Bye, friend.